On today's episode of Word Therapy, I want to share a story. It's going to be a long story. Kindly listen till the end. There was a wealthy man who had 4 children, 3 boys and a girl. He was scheduled for a crucial business trip and traveled with his first son, who handled the operations of his company. Whilst on his trip, he was informed that 4 armed men had taken his 3 children left at home hostage. The man was disheartened. He loved his children very much. However, his meeting was very crucial for the well-being and sustenance of his city. His eldest son, understanding the complexity of the situation, requested that his father continue with the schedule, while he returned home to negotiate the release of his siblings. The father refused for fear that his eldest son would also be taken hostage. But his eldest son reassured him that he knew the men who held his siblings hostage and knew what they wanted, as they were known faces in the community. Hesitantly, the man allowed his eldest son lead the rescue attempt while he proceeded on for his business meeting. The name of the 3 children held hostage were Junior, Jamie, and Lisa. The eldest son already had a strategy with which he hoped to get them out of the house unharmed. He knew a secret passage to the house and was certain he could rescue his siblings through this passage, since the criminals weren't aware of this passage. The passage was a pathway that led from a secret entrance at the back gate of the house to an enormous red painting in the sitting room. This painting wasn't very beautiful, but was the costliest item in the entire house. When the eldest son returned to the city, he was informed by the police that they had tried all they could. They wouldn't release his siblings for anything, they said. The eldest son thanked the police officers and went on with his plan. He knew he had to go in stealth if he would get his siblings out, so he went in with just a knife. When he got to the red painting, he peeked through and watched for the location of the criminals. He studied their routine and positions, and optimizing the element of surprise, he was able to knock all 4 criminals out without even using his knife. When he had knocked all 4 of them out, he hurried to the room where they held his siblings and set them free. As he untied them, he explained that they had a limited time to get out of the house, since the criminals were just barely unconscious. Jamie said he couldn't leave without his PlayStation. "You don't need it," his elder brother said. "This is our house. I'm only taking you out so the police would storm in here and take them out." Before he was done speaking, Jamie ran off to his room, and Lisa followed right after him. "Lisa, where are you going?" he shouted. "I just want to grab my phone," Lisa responded. He escorted Junior to the gate, with hope to return right after Junior was secure for Lisa and Jamie. Jamie got into his room, quickly pulled out the PlayStation cord from the socket, and started running out with it. By this time, the assailant next to Jamie's room had already regained consciousness. He was a hefty fella. He saw Jamie and attacked him, whisking the PlayStation from his hand and smashed it on Jamie's head. Jamie fell unconscious. Lisa was very quick with her phone. She took the phone and ran towards the door. The assailant nearest to her room wasn't as built as the first. He had just regained consciousness, but yet laid on the ground. He spotted Lisa as she tried running out the room. When she saw he had regained consciousness, she tried running around him. He reached out and grabbed her feet, and she fell to the ground, destroying her phone and hurting her knee. Just then the eldest brother came in and pulled her off him. "Where's Jamie?" he asked Lisa. "I don't know, but I heard a really loud noise," she said with tears and pain from her bruised knee. At this time, the police had entered the house and apprehended the criminals. The eldest son walked with heavy shoulders as he approached Jamie's room, fearing the worst. He met Jamie lying in a pool of blood. Jamie had died from the force of the strike to his head. The father heard the news and wept bitterly. The whole city was saddened by the day's event. "Why didn't Jamie come out with Junior?" everyone queried. Lisa soon recovered from her injuries, but no one would ever see or hear from Jamie again. A truly sad story. Now the name of the eldest brother in the story is Jesus. When he said, "Seek ye first the kingdom," he was literally saying, get to safety first. Jesus is not a white man. No, neither was he a black man. He was a Jew, born into a Jewish family. We do not believe nor follow Jesus because we seek a religion. Jesus is not a religion. Neither do we believe Jesus solely because of the claims he made. In hindsight, though, no man ever made such claims as Jesus did. Man, the man said he was himself God. The audacity. But he sure is, and he backed his claims up. There's only been one who proved his claims. Many have spoken and raised followers to themselves, but there's only been one who gave proof. He proved to be the way to salvation and redemption by his many works, and ultimately the resurrection from the dead and his physical levitation beyond the skies. And this is why we believe in him. History records and accepts his existence and the existence of his 12 apostles. However, history and some groups argue his resurrection and ascension, but you'd hardly find any reasonable and sound-minded individual that argues his existence. Here is one of the reasons why some argue his resurrection. Matthew chapter 28 from verse 11 to 15 is titled by some Bible translations as the report of the gods. Take some time to read it for yourself. I display the English Standard Version on the screen. The scripture reads, "While they were going, behold, some of the guards went into the city and told the chief priests all that had taken place. And when they had assembled with the elders and taken counsel, they gave a sufficient sum of money to the soldiers and said, 'Tell people his disciples came by night and stole him away while we were asleep. And if it comes to the governor's ears, we will satisfy him and keep you out of trouble.' So they took the money and did as they were directed. And this story has been spread amongst the Jews to this day." This was Matthew's account. This was the day that Jesus resurrected from the dead, and the guards were witness to his resurrection. But when they told the chief priests all that had happened, the chief priest chose to bribe them to tell a different story to people. The insatiable need to control the narrative and to control people has always been the bane of our existence as humans. It did not start today. On Word Therapy last week, we dealt with the choices that were made for us before we took control of our lives. And if scriptures are anything to go by, a man is beyond redemption if his upbringing isn't right. Sadly, not many parents today are doing a good job of raising their kids right. A lot of parents give themselves their time, attention, resources, and you are our heroes. For some others, they want to, they truly do, but they can't seem to figure it out. Their jobs, living conditions, social media, and societal pressures are a few of the forces they reckon with daily. When you study the lives of Edmund Kemper, also known as the Coed Killer, Luis Garavito, Pedro Lopez, to mention a few, some of the coldest killers our world have encountered, you'd find a common element, a denominator of a sort, shared amongst almost all of them. They didn't have a decent upbringing. These ones became mammoth-sized monsters, very visible for the entire world to see. But there are many rodent-sized monsters terrorizing families, friends, and communities, and these ones walk amongst us every day. It takes the grace, power, and mind of Jesus Christ to whisk a person off a certain path and fix them on another. Is it compulsory to follow Jesus though? Obviously not. It's a choice and always will be. And that brings us to the end of today's discussion. Kindly share with a friend you may like to hear this. And you can click on the notification icon so you're updated with every new post. For personal questions about Jesus, you can send an email to plainfields2000. Thanks for stopping by.